my parents had to sign a special form to allow the Crankies to be my guardians. If that's Hollywood, can you tell them I'm busy?
Welcome back to Mega Music Memories, the podcast that remembers and celebrates the music of our childhoods and the amazing artists and bands who helped to create it. My name is Matt Gibson. Join me on each episode as I interview pop stars from the 80s, 90s and noughties who, in my opinion, don't always get the plaudits they deserve for the magnificent music they helped to create and the magical memories we have today. So, if you're a nostalgia nerd like me, subscribe and stay tuned as we continue our journey through an amazing era of pop music. If you love pop, if you love nostalgia, and if you want to hear your favourite blasts from the past, reflecting on their careers and giving us the lowdown on what they're up to now, then you've come to the right place. So buckle up, friends, we've got some serious reminiscing to do. Hello and a very happy new year from Mega Music Memories as we look forward to an exciting 2022 where we'll be catching up with lots more of our favourite artists and bands from yesteryear, reminiscing about their awesome careers and finding out what they're all doing now. I'm very excited about what I've got planned for the podcast this year. More about that at the end of the show, but first, as ever, if you're enjoying these interviews, please help us out by giving us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to your podcasts and leaving a positive review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Those reviews help us to get seen by more people, and I want to say a very special thank you to those of you who have taken the time to do this. Now, on to today's guests, and we're going a little further back in our time machine than we've become accustomed to lately, as we talk to Steve Grant and Denise Waterman, who were both members of the 1980s pop group Tight Fit. Alongside Julie Harris, Steve and Denise grabbed everyone's attention in 1982 when their cover version of The Lion Sleeps Tonight shot to the top of the UK and Irish singles charts. Their follow-up single, Fantasy Island, also broke the top 5 on both sides of the Irish Sea, and the group are now back releasing new music once again 40 years after first capturing our hearts. Steve and Denise reflect on their remarkable early careers and the peak of their chart-topping fame, and tell us about what they've both been up to since, right up to the present day, where they're signed to the fantastic Energize record label and are due to release their new album later this year. Now, Tight Fit's latest single, Fallout, was released right at the end of November, so I started the interview by asking the guys what the public reaction to the track has been like so far.
Well, it's been amazing. It's been so nice to be doing things like this, you know, doing interviews with people such as yourself and doing radio interviews and talking to people and people who, not everyone knows that we've been gigging, but we've been gigging for like 10 years now. We started in about 2010, so over 10 years now. And so doing this has just come as a complete kind of a bit of a surprise to us because we weren't expecting to get a record deal, and we signed a deal at the beginning of last year during lockdown, and Energize approached us. They wanted to do an album with new material. We listened to the tracks that they sent us and just said, wow, this is amazing. These tracks are so good. We can't not do this.
What we couldn't believe was the fact that these songs are so good that Energize would want to give them to us. And seriously, they're good enough for like the real pop stars that are out there. Not us, but we are so grateful because the album is really full of songs that are worthy of a lot of airtime. We are really, really pleased. I don't know whether, you've managed to hear the song that we've currently got out, but I mean, that's great. But there's a lot more coming up the rear.
Yeah. I say.
Don't forget that we might be slightly on the more mature side, but the songs aren't. So therefore, to any new ears that are listening to it, be they old or young ears, it just sounds like another pop song. Not just another pop, obviously, because it's us, but it just sounds like, oh, here's another group performing a song. So that's what's so nice for us, that it's got such a young, energetic sound that people might be slightly surprised to see who's behind it. But, those youngsters that are coming up wouldn't have a clue who Tight Fit were. That is really more exciting for us.
Yeah, and exciting to maybe hook them in, obviously to get new fans, and then they can find out about Tight Fit and look back on the back catalogue, and so that's exciting as well, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe we could get some new fans. But what the nice thing about doing what we do now is that people that knew us back in the day come and see us, and they bring their kids as well. So we have we're very lucky. We've got a loyal group of fans that come and see us at the gigs, which is wonderful. And we've got to know them now. Many of them, they're like friends because we see them all the time at the gigs. And younger people come along as well. So it's really, but this is just like the icing on the cake. So yeah, we feel very privileged.
For anyone that obviously you can't see what Steve is looking like, but the smile on his face, he's such a happy man. Talking about new music.
No, I love it because love music, love making music. And the chance to do it again at this stage of our careers is amazing. We've just recorded, we recorded a month ago, the new single, which comes out after Fallout, and that's ready to go as well. So, which is a fantastic song. I'm so excited about that as well. And it's produced by Seventh Heaven, who are great producers. And we can't believe we're working with them. And so that comes out, and then there'll be the album. We've recorded part of the album. We haven't finished the whole thing yet, but the tracks that we have recorded, in fact, we've done about 5 tracks, and each of them could have been a single. So it's been quite difficult to pick which ones we thought would be the ones we would actually release as singles, because we've got so many good songs. And that's thanks to our label, which is amazing that they've given us these great tracks. So we're just absolutely loving it.
Fallout's been doing really rather well in the Heritage chart as well, hasn't it? Now, I actually hadn't heard of that until a couple of months ago. So for any listeners who maybe haven't heard of it, are you able to briefly explain what it is and how people can support your new music on it?
Yeah, the Heritage chart, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, is all to do with a gentleman that you may or may not know called Mike Reed. And this is set up for old performers that might have new stuff coming up. So the heritage part is the fact that they may have many years ago had hits in their own way. And now with new songs, can they get to be in a chart? And we went in, I think, at 32. Then we jumped up to 23. And this week, we're number 13. So if anyone would like to keep voting, you can only vote once a week for each person. But if they would like to, if you go to www.heritagechart.co.uk, you will be able to join in and get us a bit closer to the top.
Yeah, I've just voted. So hopefully we'll get you into the top 10.
There's a firestorm coming. This is the fight of all time. So don't try to escape it. The matter of fire, now the tick of the heart. The emotional explosion that will tear you apart. If you drop the ball, stand back. It's gonna be fallout. You better run for your life, 'cause it's crazy to stay. There's a firestorm coming and it's heading your way. If you drop the ball, stand back. It's gonna be fallout. It's gonna be fallout. It's gonna be fallout. Fallout, 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 fallout. It's gonna be fallout. It's gonna be fallout.
I can't say too much, but a little birdie told me last evening that we may well be doing a television show the week after next. But if we can't say too much, we won't expand on that. But that's really good fun as well, is it not, Steve?
We're looking forward to doing that. There's been nothing on social media about it yet, but it's to do with the Heritage Chart and Mike Reed. So fingers crossed, we'll talk more about that when we do it. But yeah, it's going to be something exciting, I think.
All sounds very exciting, so we'll keep our eyes peeled for that one. So if I can, guys, take you, if you don't mind, all the way back to the very beginning now. Now, Steve, you come originally from quite a working class background. I believe your dad was a carpenter, your mum was a housewife.
That's right. Yeah. Very, very working class background, and but I went to the local stage school from about 10. My parents couldn't afford to pay for me to go there, so they just paid for one class. I went every day, but they only paid for me to go for one class a week because that's all they could afford. But the lady who ran the school liked me and thought I was good and had some talent, and so she gave me all these free classes, and which I absolutely loved. And so I like I said, I went from about the age of 10, and then I went in the kind of school pushed me into quite a classical ballet direction. I went to Rambert School and I had a grant, and back in those days everything was paid for, even my train fare to London. So I went to Rambert School and studied there, studying contemporary and classical dance, and then I went to English National Ballet when I was 18, and it was just something that I had sort of kind of wanted to do, but realized when I got there that I was never going to be Baryshnikov. But I worked with amazing people, like we toured with Nureyev and amazing ballet dancers, and I enjoyed it for the 2 years I was there. But I realized very quickly I was never going to be a soloist, a principal. So I decided to move into commercial theatre and went into musicals. And I'd just done my first musical at Drury Lane before Tight Fit. So and my dad was a singer. He used to sing in local amateur dramatics, and so he was much happier, I think, when I decided to go on the stage and do a bit of singing and dancing rather than doing the classical stuff, which they very much supported me in, despite the fact that nobody in my family had ever been in the theatre at all. It was I come from a very supportive family, and they were behind me all the way for whatever I wanted to do. But yeah, I kind of chopped and changed my career at the beginning, but then went into commercial theatre once I kind of figured out what was the direction I really wanted to go in.
Mm. Well, that's great that you had all that support, I think, isn't it? Because I mean, forgive me if I'm sort of making assumptions, but you almost, you think like 10-year-old boy from working class background in the 1970s, you think,
yeah.
It's maybe you wouldn't get that encouragement that you did get. So
yeah, that's absolutely true, and I didn't appreciate that at the time, but I really appreciate it now, because I never told anybody at school that I was going to tap dance classes after school and doing ballet lessons after school, and I kind of kept it to myself. But my parents were very proud of the fact that I was doing what I was doing, what I loved doing, and they, like you said, they very much supported me, and financially, whatever they could afford, they helped out. So I'm always eternally grateful for them for that. Yeah.
And Denise, your whole family was and still is in show business, aren't they? And you did lots of acting jobs during your childhood. I think TV adverts, even some films, I believe. What can you tell us about that?
Well, you might say I was born in a trunk, because my parents were professional singers and in fact used to do summer seasons with Jay from Bucks Fizz's parents, who were performers too. And so I'd spend the summer with Jay and we'd do our version of the show at the end of every day. And it soon became apparent we went to stage school. I've got two brothers and they went to stage school as well. So we did films, commercials, plays, everything. I mean, it's all I knew. It would have been different if my parents were librarians, I suppose. I wouldn't have gone anywhere near a stage. However, I never wanted to be a dancer, but I spent the first 5 years dancing, and no one noticed that I wasn't as good as anyone else, so I carried on doing it. And then I started singing. I didn't want to be a singer either. And guess what? No one noticed, so I carried on doing it. I only ever wanted to be a television presenter. So along the way, the acting, the singing, whatever came my way, I would do it because it was the business. Eventually, at the age of 30, I became a television presenter. So I didn't want to not have a go before I was too old to have a go and then look back with regrets. So luckily, I still do that now, and voiceovers and type fit. Luckily for the rest of the world, I don't do dancing by myself anymore. I certainly would never have been able to compete with Steve, that's for sure. But, my life has been, a roller coaster of fun, really. I've worked with Benny Hill, Kenny Everett, the Crankies, Les Dawson, Morecambe and Wise. I mean, most of the people that I've worked with, I don't want to worry you, Steve, but they've died. Don't spend too much time with me.
Dear. Fingers crossed, we'll be going next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. The cast of characters that you've worked with, Denise. I mean, you mentioned them, a lot of them there, but I mean, you lived with the Crankies for a brief period, didn't you?
I did.
Opposite Russ Abbott. I mean, what's that all about?
Yeah, I did my first summer season when I was 15 with the Crankies, and my parents had to sign a special form to allow the Crankies to be my guardians. If that's Hollywood, can you tell them I'm busy?
that's the agent calling. Say we're cancelled.
So they were looking after me in Jersey for my first summer season, and then they asked me to join their cabaret act, which I did. And then they had a summer season the next year in Blackpool, and they wanted me for some reason. They really liked me, and they said, "Why don't you audition to be in that show, and you can live with us?" So I did. And we used to spy on Russ Abbott at the end of the night because he was in a house opposite where we were living. And I have to say, it's great memories. And just a few years ago, my brother directed them in pantomime. So I popped up to see them, and we just picked up where we left off. And we all went around the pub. The only difference was I wasn't a 16-year-old girl anymore. I was a grown woman. But they really have been so lovely to me, and I can only look back with fond memories. And I feel blessed that my life has been such a roller coaster of fun, which it really has, and it still continues to be. Every day is different, I don't quite open the fridge door and start singing, but there would be a danger if I wasn't able to get on the stage at some point in the year.
And I have to hold her back.
I have to ask as well about again, you briefly alluded to it, but I mean, you were on the Morecambe and Wise Christmas show, and that was like huge events TV back in the day, wasn't it? What was your involvement there?
I was at stage school, Italia Conti, and somebody else was supposed to be doing it, but I can't remember. I don't think they could get a license for her. So suddenly I was put into it. The year before, Angela Rippon had danced with Morecambe and Wise and shown her legs, and it had caused such a stir that everyone wanted to see all the newsreaders' legs. So the following year, they got Anna Ford. Well, so people thought, only Anna Ford didn't want to do it. So pops up a 15-year-old Denise pretending to be Anna Ford. And at the time, I didn't quite realise just how big a deal it was to be on the Christmas Morecambe and Wise show. But of course, that's how everyone spent their Christmas Day afternoon, full of turkey, with their feet up, watching Morecambe and Wise. And so, very lucky. I was blinking awful, by the way. Don't ever look at it, because there was a reason why I didn't continue to be a dancer. It's obvious, but it was great. It was really good fun. But of course, all of that brought us to the point of where Steve and I and Julie met at an audition room, and we walked in. There were about 25 boys and about 40 girls, And this record company were looking to put a group together. It was a combination of not quite ABBA and not quite Bucks Fizz. How can they make it different? I know, we'll just have 3 instead of 4. So they were looking for 1 guy and 2 girls. So the day goes on. We all do our bit of dancing, bit of singing, bit of blagging from my point of view. And by the end of the day, there were 4 women and 2 men. And they got rid of everybody else, and we were all still there. And the other guy, had it not been Steve, would have been my brother. Unfortunately, we couldn't have both been in it because we looked like Donnie Marie Osmond at the time. So it would have looked like the Osmonds with somebody else. So sadly, my brother didn't get it, but luckily I did. And we went on to have a bit of a whirlwind initiation into the world of pop music, did we not, Steve?
Yeah. So the 3 of us didn't know each other before that time, although we were with the same agent for theatre work. So our agency was approached by the record company, and then the agency sent a lot of people from the agency to the audition. And that's where we met at the audition. So we were from the same kind of area because we had the same agent, but we just didn't know each other. So that was over 40 years ago now. If somebody had said to me back then, "Are you going to be doing this in 40 years' time?" I'd have slapped them silly. But no, yes, we're here we are.
Yeah, so yourselves and Julie, you get the gig. And in January 1982, The Lion Sleeps Tonight goes all the way to the top of the UK and Irish charts. You've got a #1 single. I mean, what was it like for you guys being, catapulted into such huge success from, relative obscurity?
Well, we have to kind of just highlight one particular thing, and I'll pass it on to you in a second, Steve. When we first got to the top of the pop studio the first time, this is when the record had been out, but we hadn't actually done a show yet. And the record company decided what we were wearing. And Julie and I were wearing like khaki shirts with boots and all looking quite military-like. And Steve was going to be wearing a loincloth. So we walked out onto the set, and the director of the show came over and said, "What on earth are you wearing? You can't wear that on a show like this. Go and put some clothes on." Obviously to Steve, not to us. So Steve went off to the wardrobe and came back with a string vest and a pair of khaki trousers. So now we're all kind of complimenting each other. Why the record company didn't think of that in the beginning, I do not know. But poor Steve, at the thought of having to wear that loincloth on that first show, I think he lost half a stone.
Just from worrying. Yeah. And like Denise was saying, Michael Hell just came down on the floor and said, "Sorry, you can't wear that." And for me, that was such a relief because I really did not want to wear it. But like Denise said, the record company could have controlled everything that we did and wanted us to wear that. So I relented, and then was so thankful that they said, "You're not going to wear this." And so when we were #1, we went onto the stage and stood there with what we had been wearing, and Michael Hull came down again and said, "Okay, you're going to wear it now." So there was this rush to find the loincloth, and me thinking, "Oh no, please, no, I don't want to wear that." But looking back,
that it would keep you at #1.
Yeah, but the record dropped that week because we've been #1 for 3 weeks at that point. The record company were just desperate to try and keep it there. Anyway, it dropped, so it had no impact at all. But looking back on it now, I hated it at the time, but I'm glad I'm kind of glad I did, because everyone remembers it. You know, when you're young and very insecure and you think, "Oh no, what am I doing?" A little bit older, I've got a different perspective about it and think, "Oh, what the hell, whatever, it doesn't matter. People remember it, it's fine."
But you'd be glad to hear he doesn't wear the loincloth anymore.
Yeah, it's got its own little shrine in the corner there.
It'll be in a museum somewhere, I think.
Museum of Loincloths down the road, yeah.
But we do tend to include some kind of leopard print somewhere along the line. And rumour has it, if we're still doing this in about 10 years' time, we're already getting our Zimmer frame covered up in loincloths, ready to come on that stage. Oh, we mow it, oh, we mow it. There'll be no stopping us. We'll be doing the old people's
Oh
homes.
dear.
And you guys, you toured all over the UK with your album as well, also called Tight Fit, the album. How did you find the experience of being on the road, being on tour?
Well, the hilarious thing was we walked into rehearsals and standing in front of us was Paul Young and the Q-Tips, and they were going to be our band and he was going to be our backing singer. We almost turned around and walked back out again. We had a great tour with them. A lot of frolics.
Lots of fun. That was probably one of the nicest things about that whole period, was doing that tour and meeting people, being on the road. It was damn hard work. I remember that, but when you're young, and you've got lots of energy and you want to do these things, you want to be out there promoting, you want to be singing, doing live shows, and we'd all come from theatre backgrounds. So coming into that part of the that part of the tight fit program was doing the live gigs. I absolutely loved. It was terrifying at first, just because that whole time when we had people screaming and shouting and all the fans, and for me that was quite a little bit unnerving, but I really enjoyed it. By the end of that tour, it was great fun. And like Denise said, we had an amazing band. Paul hadn't had his first hit. He was about to release it at the end of the tour, so he had some space in his diary. So luckily for us, we had an amazing band and loved doing that tour. It was a happy memory for us, and doing things like the videos, going off to foreign climes and making videos in France or Italy or wherever we were going to. So,
Steve, do you remember when we did the Radio 1 road shows, and we had a driver who used to pull up in between these crowds of people, and you'd open the window just slightly and all these hands would come in and just be shouting, Steve, Steve, Steve. You're on there. It was like being in the zoo. Or we did Capital Radio, some kind of charity day, and you could pay money to have a kiss off a pop star. And, it was all about how much money each of us could raise for charity, that someone was prepared to have a kiss on the cheek from us. So, it meant that we were doing a lot of different things. We went abroad, Musikladen, which is the German, I think it's German equivalent of Top of the Pops. And we were working with the Boomtown Rats and all these great big stars. And we're thinking, kind of pinching ourselves. Are we really here? Well, yes, we are.
Yeah, and you mentioned the music videos there. So you did Fantasy Island. That was in the south of France, I think, wasn't it? Secret Heart. You went to Venice. I mean, did you get to sort of spend some time in these places?
I can remember being in Italy. For Venice. We stayed just outside Venice on the Lido and going to the beach, because we filmed a lot of it during the night and late afternoon and in the middle of the night, some of it on gondolas and stuff. So I can remember that and just having lots of time in the daytime to do whatever we wanted to do. So that was a wonderful trip, and I think we were there for about 4 days. I absolutely loved being in Venice. Saint-Tropez was amazing, wasn't it, Denise, in the south of France? That was great fun.
It's where Steve learnt to ride a moped, kind of. He could only just manage the bike, I think. We were in a hotel where Steve, unbeknown to him or us, actually somebody came into his room in the middle of the night. He woke up, saw someone in the room and thought he was dreaming, so went back to sleep.
But then when we woke up, we realised that everyone in the hotel had been robbed. So, so the next day I had to sort of give evidence, because 2 people had been in my room during the night, and I'd just gone back to sleep. Luckily not taken anything, but very odd.
Saw you and almost fainted, Steve, and just ran.
Yeah.
Can't compete with those muscles.
No, thank God I didn't lose anything. Nothing got stolen. The only thing I had worth taking, I think, was my Sony Walkman. That was the only thing I was worried about.
And your loincloth.
Yeah, thank goodness they didn't get away with that. Yeah, so Fantasy Island, that was a huge success as well. Made it to number 5 in the UK, number 3 in Ireland. The single it attracted various comparisons with ABBA at the time. I'm wondering sort of how you guys sort of felt about that, because obviously on one hand, you know, your music's being compared quite favourably with, you know, one of the most successful and popular groups of all time. So, I mean, did those comparisons feel like a huge compliment, or was it also like a bit of a case of, well, thanks, but we are tight fits and we have got our own distinct sound and image?
Well, do you know what, Matt? I think I love that comparison. I think it's an amazing compliment. But back in the day, you have to remember, the early 80s, ABBA weren't quite as cool then as they are now. Yeah. They went through a little bit of a period, I think, very undeservedly, where they didn't have the recognition that they do now. And so I think we tried to avoid that comparison. But you know, for us, I think that was an amazing thing to happen, that people said it was like ABBA. I think it was because of all the harmonies, you know, on particularly on the chorus of that song. It does have a kind of ABBA-esque kind of feel to it. But you know, it's an amazing compliment. But you know, and again today, when Fallout came out, some people said it sounded a bit like ABBA, which again is such a compliment for us, because for me personally, I absolutely love ABBA. I just worship the ground that those geniuses walk on. So that's a real a real compliment, I think, for us and for all of us, I think. So
the thing is that I think the record company took a real risk putting out Fantasy Island after The Lion, because it was so different to The Lion. I think they were trying to establish us as a girl-boy group, but thankfully it was a risk worth taking, because it worked. And you know, you go on the internet now, somebody, I don't even know who it is, has put ABBA with Fantasy Island, ABBA on a boat somewhere, and they put Fantasy Island, the record, and it looks like ABBA are singing it. So if you didn't know any different, you would think it was the ABBA song. Just like
but it's interesting that song was originally a Eurovision entry for, or a possible Eurovision entry for Holland, for the Netherlands. And it was part of their, like we do here, a competition to choose the best song to go forward for Eurovision. And they hadn't chosen it, they'd chosen something else. But somebody from our label was at the show and heard the song and thought, that'd be great for Tight Fit. We'll see if we can get hold of that track. So they bought the rights to it and then bought it back, and we recorded it. So if it hadn't been for them turning it down, we would never have had that track in the first place. They would have kept it and put it in for Eurovision. So it was their loss and our gain.
Absolutely.
When we sing that song, our show is a 70s and 80s show. We only do 70s and 80s songs. That is until we add our now songs to the show, of course. But whenever we do Fantasy Island, especially if it's an 80s weekend type show, you can see girls going back to teenage years, remember it, and they all know the words to it. And they know the actions. But the biggest surprise for us, we did a Christmas Eve show at the Vauxhall Tavern, which is a really big club bar in London. And it's renowned for being a gay bar. And it's on this particular time, it was full of bears, they're called. They're really big, hairy, handsome, you know.
And topless.
Yeah. Sorry?
And topless.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, but we didn't. Well, Steve, you might know about it, but me and Julie didn't have a clue. We arrived.
No, trust me, I knew about it.
Yeah, I bet you did. Anyway, so we arrive at the Vauxhall Tavern to do our show. We get changed upstairs. We didn't realise that Fantasy Island was actually their anthem this particular year. So when we got on stage and started doing Fantasy Island, that's when they ripped off their shirts and they all these big, bold men started doing Fantasy Island, doing all the movements. And Julie and I were looking at each other thinking,
Loving it.
this?
Loving it. It was one of my favourite gigs. I love that gig.
Wow, oh, that sounds amazing. And you mentioned there, Denise, like how much of a risk going from Lion to Fantasy Island was. And I think the single after that, which I believe was Secret Hearts, that was quite a departure from Fantasy Island as well. Would that be fair to say as well?
It was, but by then I think they'd established the kind of boy-girl romance scenario. Because the way they did the videos, it kind of looked like Steve had two girlfriends. He didn't know whether to pick the dark-haired or the blonde-haired. And then when it went into the following one after Secret Heart, I don't know whether you've ever heard that one, I'm Undecided, which is a phenomenal pop song. Then that kind of clarified. He really didn't know which one to go with because he was undecided.
But I think Secret Heart was quite a difficult song because it was very different to anything that we'd done before, like you said, and it's kind of a bit of an up-tempo ballad, but it's got such a nice lyric. And I think the interesting thing about that song is it was originally called Time Machine, and the record company wanted something that was a bit more romantic in the title, so they changed it to Secret Heart. They rewrote the lyrics. The people that wrote that track then went to the States and sold the song, and they sold it to Barbra Streisand, and she recorded it with the original lyric, which is Time Machine. So it's on, I'm not sure which album it's on, but it's on one of her albums from the 80s. And you can hear it. It's quite a different arrangement, but if you listen to it, you can hear it's the same song, and it's just got the original lyrics on it. So Tight Fit have been covered by Barbra Streisand, I have to tell you.
Yeah, well, how did that feel like, hearing Barbra Streisand pretty much like sing a version of one of your songs?
You know what? I didn't hear it at the time. It wasn't until a few years later, and I met somebody at a gig, and they said, "Did you know that Barbra Streisand had recorded this song?" So I looked it up and heard it, and it was like, "Oh my God! Wow, this is so amazing!" And she sings it absolutely beautifully. But it's not one of her well-known songs. It wasn't a single, but it's a track on the album. So it's one of those songs. I think that back then, for us, it wasn't one of our biggest hits, but lots of people say to us that it's one of their favorite Tight Fit tracks. So lots of people who follow us love that song, but it's not one of our most famous songs. It didn't get the recognition I think it possibly should have done at the time. So yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I mean, I've been watching it on YouTube, and I was reading all the comments underneath, in the comment section, and very complimentary, and people saying that they really like it. So even though it wasn't one of your biggest songs, it did get out there, and it did touch some people, and they still remember it to this day. So
and it wasn't that big a hit in the UK, but I think we had quite a hit in Ireland with it, in fact. So it did better there than it did at home, and in some territories around Europe it did quite well, but just not in the UK.
Now, obviously, I mean, we've touched upon some already. And obviously, Lion Sleeps Tonight gets so much attention, and rightly so, because it was a mega smash hit. But you guys made a full album back in '82, and are there any other tracks that we haven't mentioned so far that you wish would get a little bit more love and attention from either then or at other points in your careers even?
I think Undecided should have been a hit. It's such a lovely song.
Yeah, it's such a great song. It was written by Stevie Langer and our producer, Tim Free-Screen. And Stevie is an amazing singer. She's sung on lots of people's tracks. She had a hit with Jimmy Somerville, I think, at one point in her career, and she's had an amazing career. And wrote this brilliant song, I'm Undecided, with our producer Tim, and that song is still a great pop song. If you go on YouTube and look for I'm Undecided, you'll see a version of it on there, I think. So it was a song, I think, that could have been a bigger hit if things had been different at that time. But it's not. It's because people don't know it so much. We don't tend to do it in the gigs. If we're doing a gig for a bunch of Type Fit fans and it's a birthday party and they've asked for it, then we'll do it. But normally we don't do it in the gig just because not so many people know it. But it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. I think there were some great tracks on that album. And that I think I'm Undecided, Secret Heart are two of the best songs on that album.
Steve, do you remember when we went to Poland? We went to Poland to do a television show, and we were going to do basically filming of the whole of the Type Fit album. But they were quite behind the times in Poland. So when we got there, they'd set up all these different scenes for us to do each song. And half the time, I think we were miming to the wrong, because it was all done really quickly. I remember there was one particular song, I think it might have been 1, 2, 3, Steve, where it was done in like a theatre scene, and I was miming to the man's voice, and you started miming because we got so confused because they were making us like do it so quickly, and it was so old-fashioned. In it's maybe different now, but this was a long time.
Yeah, this is a long time ago. So 1982, we had like a TV special in Poland, and they just basically did the whole album. So we just had playback for each track and did every song off the album. I have no idea what channel it was on in Poland, but I've never seen it. But it was quite weird because they came and met us off the plane, and they took us in a limousine from the plane. I can remember falling down the steps as I'm getting off the plane, tired. And they filmed us from the time we arrived to the time we left for this TV special. And
I remember going into the makeup room, and it was so old-fashioned. They almost had the curling tong in the fire to heat it up. I'm not saying it was a long time ago, but it was.
It was a long time ago. I'm not
sure there was any electricity in this place. It was just crazy. Yeah, but it was funny. And when we have seen it, they gave, I don't know where they put it out, but they did give us a copy of it at some point. We have watched it.
Have you? I can't remember seeing it.
Have you never seen it?
No, I don't think so.
It's hilarious. I think Julie might have a copy of it. We should ask her to root it out because it really is hilarious. We were
but our record company used to send us off to places that probably nobody else would go to. So they had lots of deals all over Eastern Europe. So we'd go off and do gigs in Bulgaria or wherever it was, and go to countries that probably a lot of people weren't going to at the time. So Poland was one of those. So it was interesting to see a different culture and see how difficult people's lives were, particularly at that time in those Eastern European countries. You know how poor people were. It was quite an eye opener for me, especially. And
of course, Steve being a big foodie, he loves his food. The food was very different in Poland, so I don't think he was. Can't remember him being very impressed with the food.
No, it wasn't very good at all. And I remember as well being in the hotel and trying to call home, and picking up the receiver and saying, "Can I make a call to UK?" And the operator saying, "I'm terribly sorry, you can't call out of the country." That was it. It was like, "I'm sorry, you can't make that call." Well, okay, fine. I'm sorry, I tried, but there you go. It was just very, very different times, to now. And I can remember the military running the TV station, and the military walking around with their machine guns everywhere you went. So yeah, it was
And we
weird.
just wanted to get it finished.
Yeah.
We just okay, let's just film this one. That's fine. We'll stick with that one. Go on to the next one. But great memories. I mean, I'm sure we can have an evening now, Steve, watching the video.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you guys need to upload it to the internet. I think we all need to see this video.
I need to spare people from that.
Very funny. Very funny.
Now, obviously, Tight Fit have been back together now, as you say, for many years, but you guys did go your separate ways for a while. Can you each maybe tell us a little bit about what you both got up to during that kind of interim period?
So I went back to doing what I'd done before, and I started doing musicals again. So I did a few touring productions of musicals, like I toured in Kiss Me Kate with Kate O'Mara, and then I toured in a show called On the Town, and then I did a few other small jobs, and then I got a big job in London and played in the musical Miss Saigon at Drury Lane, and I did that on and off during the 90s. I had some health issues in the 90s, so I had a lot of time where I wasn't working, and then at the end of the 90s, I went back to Saigon and did that show again up until it closed at Drury Lane. This is the original production, and then had some issues with my sight. I had lots of eye operations. I had about 10 eye operations, so I stopped doing theatre. And then about 10 years ago, the girls called me up and said, "Hey, do you fancy doing some gigs?" And here we are.
Steve, I have to ask you about Doctor in Distress. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, you've done your homework. Even I've forgotten about that. Yes, that's true. I completely forgotten. I had a record deal with a label called Record Shack for a while, and I did a single with them. And one of the producers at the label, Ian Levine, put together I don't know what it's a charity, not really a charity record, because it was aimed at saving Doctor Who. And I think Julie performed on it as well, in fact.
Yeah.
So I can't remember all the other people who were on it, but there were a lot of comedians and actors and singers and whatever, all performing on this track, because Ian is a massive Doctor Who fan. So yeah, I'd completely forgotten about that. Oh my God! Yeah,
it looks a bit like sort of like Band-Aid for Doctor Who, basically. There's all sorts of
yeah. There was a really odd rumor on the day, because the boss from the record company kept saying Paul McCartney's going to be here any minute now. Needless to say, Paul McCartney never showed up. But that was another deal. And then after that, I had a deal with Rocket Records, with Elton John's label, and I did a couple of singles. One with
this is Splash, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, with Splash, and we did a single with Pete, with Stockache and Waterman, and one with Bronski Beat as well, European Boy. And that's at that point, that's when I went back to doing theatre again after that finished.
And Denise, you obviously kept yourself really busy, haven't you, with all sorts of different things, from TV presenting, as you've mentioned, to voiceovers, to acting, to working with children, not to mention having 2 kids of your own.
I was signed by Pete Waterman, but when he wasn't working in Stockache and Waterman. So he hasn't always had golden ears. They've obviously grown on him. So I did a record with my brothers that didn't really do anything. And then they said, get rid of the boys and keep you. And I'm saying, no, get rid of me and keep the boys. They're the ones with the real good voices. Anyway, he said, no, we're going to do a cover of this, kid. All right, kid. Well, that's me pretending to be Pete. So we did a cover of You Broke My Heart in 17 Places, Shepherd's Bush Was Only One. just rolls off the tongue, that title. And Tracy Ullman did it originally, so I did a cover, and we did this big tour of the UK, giving out T-shirts saying Denise Gingell broke my heart in 17 places to all the DJs whose radio station we went to. Didn't do a thing. I don't think it even entered the charts. So that was at the time when Pete was a producer of a record for me. So fast forward, I ended up singing at a club in London. And that was very interesting. Had 35 hookers in the audience. I wasn't one of them, I may add. But you could only go into this club by going through the front door. So it looked to everybody else like you were a hooker too. But I have to tell you, I was the host and only singer in the show. My God, they were brave. Anyway, my grandparents came to see that show. Now, the costumes were slightly on the brief side. We did a tribute to the Wizard of Oz, and the biggest part of my costume was my puff sleeves. I had a great big Dorothy puff sleeves, a basket, a bra top, and a G-string that was also gingham, and a tiny little skirt thing on the side. But there was a witch that the biggest part of her costume was her hat. And then there was the Tin Man and her, whatever they wear on the head of the Tin Man. So it was a variety show for more mature, older males, I'd have thought. But I was definitely just hosting the show. Anyway, fast forward from that, Benny Hill and Kenny Everett. And anyway, did Sorry with Ronnie Corbett. There's a bit of a theme going on here. I played Scylla, the mud wrestler. I actually auditioned to be a librarian. I got cast as a mud wrestler. Hey, maybe my acting was not what I thought it was. And then I re-met up with Pete by chance while I was singing at the Stork Club. And he said, "What are you doing tonight, kid?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to sing at a club in London." He said, "All right, pop round for a drink before the show." Nearly got sacked that night because there was a lot of wobbling going on the stage. And fast forward a few years, and we ended up getting married, had 2 children. And as they said, the rest is history. And then we got divorced. Ta-da! I was his 3rd wife, and I realised there was a common denominator, and it wasn't it wasn't the women. The common denominator was definitely the one man that was involved. Great guy, but he's not really born to be a husband. He's driving his train, and you cannot be a co-driver. So not wanting to be an engine driver at the back of the train, I decided to drive my own train. So I came back down to London, and now I chug around. I've got 8 pretend husbands that I go and do jobs with. I can always hand them back, so much easier. In fact, just before lockdown, I got booked after 2 very, very long auditions wearing a swimming costume. You thought you were uncomfortable, age 20, Steve, in a loincloth. Imagine being age 58, standing in front of an audition situation in your swimming costume next to your pretend husband for 25 minutes, chatting like this is the most normal thing in the world. And inside I'm thinking, oh my God, please, how much longer is this going to go on for? Anyway, I didn't think we had a chance in hell of getting the job, but we got it, and it was to go to the Bahamas for 2 weeks to film a commercial for a private island called Coco Cay. And the only bad thing was I had to go with my pretend husband. So I had to spend 2 weeks with him. And at the end, I said to his real wife, my God, you deserve a medal. Being married to him. So life is fun. Life has been fun, and hopefully will continue to be fun when we get back on the road, Steve. Doing more gigs.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can do some more. Get back to it this year, because it's been like I said, it's been about 2 years now since we've been out on the road doing shows again, and we've actually got some booked in this year. So fingers crossed things will improve. It's one of those things, you take each day as it comes, but we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed we'll be out there doing gigs again at some point.
If not, Steve, you can always be my pretend husband. I'll see what we can get.
Oh my lord! It's bad enough being you being my boss.
No, I have to say, poor Steve. He's never been married to either of us, but it's like having two wives, which I wouldn't tell anyone.
We've had a 40-year relationship.
But we're still talking. Just.
I mean, when you did get back together, as you say, as a band around sort of 2010, there was no record label then, but there is now. You, as you said at the beginning, you're with Energize, and so how does working with Energize now compare to like record deals that you've had in the past?
So different.
It's so much better now. We were basically very much puppets for Jive Records, who were controlling everything. Not only did we have our deal with them, they also managed us as well. So we had a management deal and a record deal with the label. And I can remember one point we turned up. We were just about to do the tour, the live band tour, and we turned up for a photo shoot. And somebody put a drinks can in our hands and told us to look like we were enjoying this drink for the photographic session. And it was the launch of a soda that was being launched onto the market into the UK, and we were being used to promote this drink. The record company were paid something like £50,000 to promote this drink,
And
we didn't see a penny of it. And they told us it was because they were promoting our tour, which they were. The drink's name was all over our tour. But that was the kind of thing that happened to us back in the day, because we had no control over what we were doing at all. We turn up for something and then just find out, these people are using us for this drink that I have to say I've never drunk because it tastes vile. so it was that kind of relationship that was very, very one-sided. We were very much like I said, puppets, and they were controlling us with the strings. So Denise will have her stories about that as well, I'm sure, but that was one that really sticks out in my mind, that drinks company sponsoring us.
But they would even tell us when we could go to the doctor, when we could go to the dentist, and what day we would have off. You couldn't ask for any of those.
But it was also really quite rare to have a day off, I remember.
But no matter how much work we did, we'd still get the same amount of money. So if by chance we only worked for 3 days, we would get the same amount of money. But if we worked for 7 days, it would be...
Yes. Well, and we had a deal that gave, we had a very... badly drawn up record deal with very small amount of points on the record and money each week, but like, I don't know, 1 point per record between us, something like that. So the money was quite, the money, although we got to do amazing things, the financial side of it was let me say, not that lucrative.
Yeah. Exploitative, perhaps.
Yeah.
You guys have been working together now on and off for 40 years. What do you think is the secret to your longevity?
The fact we don't live together? No.
I think that's part of it, though. We've all got our lives, our separate lives, away from what we do. And and Julie and Denise have their interests. I've got my own interests, and we do have our separate things that we do, our separate lives. But when we get together, it's like old times. And we, like you said, we've known each other for 40 years now. Stepping back on stage, I'm looking left, I'm looking right at the girls, I'm thinking, oh my God, here we are again. It's like putting on a very comfy shoe, if I can say that. It's something that we still enjoy, and I think if we weren't enjoying it, if we didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't do it. And that's why we do it, I think, because we do still love getting out there, meeting people and doing the shows, and that's I think a big part of it. And we are a bit like family. We have our fallouts and then we make up again. It's one of those nice things that we've known each other for so long that we've been through all the difficult times and the good times.
I think the difference now is the fact that when we get together, we're doing it because we want to be. No one's telling us we've got to do it. We've said, we all, if gigs come in, we ring each other and say, look, do we want to do this one? Can we all do this date or whatever it might be? And then we do it. And we're not too proud to do any. We've done parties in people's gardens, in marquees. We've done parties in people's houses. It's all about doing it. For us, it's an excuse to get together, have something to eat, maybe have 1 or 2 drinks, do a show. And we very often stay over if we're doing a show. So it feels like a bit of a holiday. And then we go back to our normal lives and then we do it again.
And a lot of the shows that we do are with other acts from our kind of era. So other people that have had hits in the 80s, and it'll be probably 5 of us, 5 different groups, and only each group will do 20 minutes on stage. So if we're in a theatre, a big theatre, it'll be not just us, it'll be whoever else, Sonia, Hazel Dean, whoever it is, and we'll all do our section, and that's a great gig. I love doing those gigs because you get to know other people that you possibly haven't worked with before. And the fans are all there to have a good time. Everyone's come dressed up in their 80s gear, and those are really fun nights to have. We're all kind of reliving our youth a little bit during those nights.
Just before lockdown, we did an 80s gig at Butlins, and I brought my mother, who's at the time she was 85. She's got a mobility scooter, so brought her to our rehearsals, and then had a little room for her. She had to go to sleep because we weren't going to be on until 12 o'clock at night. So she had a little sleep at 5 o'clock. Then we woke her up at 10:30 to get on her little scooter to come to the show. And my other half went and got her. She had a special wristband on to go into the show. And when she got into this room, because everyone had been drinking from possibly, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they're all in their party gear, all 80s, they're all going mad. We're about to come on stage. My mum is driving through the crowd trying to get a good position. And she said, at one point, she thought she wouldn't be able to get up to see it. She was so pleased. She enjoyed the show so much. And it wasn't just that she enjoyed the show because her daughter was in it or because we were in it. It's because the atmosphere, even for her, at her age, she was getting the energy from everyone that was also having a good time. And she went to bed very happy. In fact, she still talks about it now. Do you remember when I came to the show at Butlins? So we're looking forward to getting back to Butlins, if anyone's listening.
Fingers crossed.
You mentioned it earlier. Are you allowed to tell us anything about the new single that's coming out?
The new track is... it's called, I think it's going to be out, I think at the end of February. We have a video for Fallout. We're going to do a video in a studio, I think, aren't we, Denise, for the next one. And so it's a great track. It's produced by Seventh Heaven, who also produce lots of other acts, including Steps, I think. And I think it's a great track. I absolutely love the next song. It's a classic pop song, again, which is what we do.
The thing about it is the words on this song that's coming up is everyone can relate to it, because Pete always used to say, he did a speech at my daughter's school our daughter's school, and he said something about, the thing is, in his bravado way, every song I've ever written, it's either about I love you, I hate you, I can't stand you, come back, go away. He said, basically, I'm saying the same thing that we're all thinking in a slightly different way, which means that you like my song. Well, this song is definitely, I don't know whether you think it's a boy's kind of annoyance or a girl's annoyance, but it's the kind of song I think that would make women stronger.
It's a bit more. It's about surviving the breakup of a relationship, And yeah, a little bit like I Will Survive. It's like, look at me now. Look at where I've come to on my own. I don't need you anymore. It's that kind of lyric. And I think that's the kind of lyric that anybody who's been through a breakup in a relationship can relate to. But on top of that, it's a very dramatic song, and it's got a great beat. It's a dance track. And I think it's going to be, I think people will be, again, surprised when they hear it, because I think a lot of people were surprised when they heard Fallout. But I think it's going to be, I'm really looking forward to this track.
Fantastic. Well, you've really whet my appetite now. Very, very intrigued and excited. I can't wait.
I hope you enjoy it. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, if it's anything like Fallout, absolutely, yeah, definitely. So you guys, obviously, 2022 gigs on the horizon. Where can people follow you on social media to find out what you're up to?
Well, we've been a bit naughty there because everything's been a bit quiet because of lockdown and, trying to manage life without getting COVID somehow, like the rest of the world. We haven't really been on top of our social media, but that is something that we are about to change. So our website will be being updated imminently. I don't think it has been.
No, it's not very up to date at the moment, but it's tightfitofficial.com. But we've all got our own kind of individual social media. So on Twitter, I'm Steve_tightfit, and you've got yours as well, haven't you, Denise?
I don't know. I get confused as to what I am on every different thing. I'm definitely
got so many.
Well, I'm definitely Waterman Cinders _tightfit on Instagram.
Yeah.
Denise Waterman on Facebook.
Denise and I both have our social media stuff going on. Julie doesn't do any of it at all. She's a bit like our Agneta of Tight Fit. She doesn't want to be seen at all. So bless her. She's not on anything, I think, at the moment. So she's in hiding.
I'm at Denise Waterman on Twitter.
There you go.
Brilliant. So thank you guys so much. It's been absolutely lovely chatting to you.
Great to talk to you, Matt. Thanks so much for inviting us. It's been really nice talking to you.
So there you go. That was my interview with Denise Waterman and Steve Grant from Tight Fit. And they were both lovely people, weren't they? It was such a pleasure to chat to them about their careers, and it's great news that they're releasing new music again. We heard Fallout during the pod there. What a great track that is. And that's out now, and you can download and stream it from all the usual platforms, including iTunes and Spotify. And of course, as Denise mentioned there, you can also vote for it on the Heritage Chart at heritagechart.co.uk. I'm really excited about Tight Fit's new single that's due to be released in February, and can't wait for their album to come out later this year as well. Now, that was the first interview here on Mega Music Memories where I've talked to two guests at the same time, and hopefully there'll be a bit more of that to come further down the line on the pod. I don't want to say too much too soon because I haven't recorded the interview yet, and it's likely to be happening closer to the summer, but I'm hoping to be chatting to all 4 members of one of my favourite noughties girl bands who are getting back together for a gig later this year, and I know you guys are going to be so pumped about it. Now, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because I've got more great interviews coming up that I can guarantee you won't want to miss. I had an awesome chat with the Queen of Rave, Rosalla, a couple of days ago. She was absolutely lovely, and she tells some amazing anecdotes about her sensational career. And that episode will be dropping on January the 21st. Again, If you're enjoying the interviews, please help me out by leaving a positive review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. It helps us to get noticed by more people, and I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who's left a review so far. Come and check us out on social media. We're at Mega Music Memories on Instagram and Mega Memories on Twitter. Hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts, and stay tuned for plenty more Mega Music Memories.